Imagine a world without bees. At first, it might sound like a minor inconvenience. A little less buzz in the garden, maybe a bit more work at the local farmer's market, but the reality is far more serious than that. Bees play a critical role in our ecosystem, and without them, our world would be drastically different. Bees are the unsung heroes of nature. These small insects are responsible for pollinating about 1/3 of the world's crops. Without them, we would be without many of the foods we take for granted. Apples, blueberries, almonds, avocados, and even coffee. In fact, about 75% of flowering plants rely on pollinators like bees to reproduce. This means that without bees, the world would face a massive food crisis. Crops would fail, and the global food supply would be severely diminished. The decline of bee populations isn't just a future concern, it's already happening. Since 2010, beekeepers in the United States have reported losing about 30% of their colonies every year. This loss is staggering and is a direct result of several factors, including habitat destruction, pesticide use, and climate change. But what if all the bees suddenly disappeared? First, the consequences would be felt immediately. The food industry relies heavily on bee-pollinated crops, so without bees, many of the foods we eat would become scarce. Prices would skyrocket as farmers struggled to find alternative ways to pollinate their crops. The lack of bees would also lead to a dramatic decrease in the availability of fruits and vegetables, which make up a significant portion of our diet. Imagine grocery stores with empty fruit aisles, and your favorite fruits becoming luxuries that only the wealthy could afford. The impact would extend far beyond just our food. Bees help pollinate wild plants that provide essential food and shelter for wildlife. Many animals, including birds, small mammals, and insects, depend on these plants for survival. With fewer plants, there would be less food available for these animals, leading to a collapse in wildlife populations. Ecosystems would be disrupted and biodiversity would suffer. It would be a cascading effect, with one problem leading to another. The loss of bees could mean the loss of entire ecosystems, and the resilience of nature would be severely weakened. Even beyond their role in pollination, bees are vital for nutrient cycling. They help break down organic matter and contribute to soil health. This means that without them, plants would struggle to grow. The soil would lose its richness, and crops that rely on healthy soil would fail to thrive. In short, without bees, the very foundation of life on Earth would begin to crumble. In a world without bees, we would find ourselves in a food and environmental crisis like no other. While humanity might be able to scrape by for a while, the long-term consequences would be dire. The truth is, we're far more dependent on these tiny creatures than we may have realized. The loss of bees would be a wake-up call, forcing us to re-examine our relationship with nature and how we treat the environment. But that's just the beginning. In the next part, we'll explore the domino effect that could happen if bees went extinct and how it would ripple across our ecosystems, economy, and even our daily lives. If bees were to disappear from the planet, the consequences would spread far beyond the loss of just a few crops. The impact would be like a chain reaction, affecting the entire web of life in ways we might not immediately see. In a world without bees, not only would our food supply suffer, but entire ecosystems would begin to unravel, creating a ripple effect that could alter our environment and society in drastic ways. One of the first areas to feel the consequences would be the agricultural industry. Without bees to pollinate crops, farmers would be forced to look for alternatives. Some crops, like corn and wheat, don't rely on bees, but many of the foods we eat, fruits, vegetables, nuts, do. Without bees, farmers would have to rely on manual pollination, which would be incredibly labor-intensive and expensive. In fact, it could take hundreds of workers just to pollinate the amount of crops that bees manage to pollinate in a single day. This means that food prices would skyrocket. Without enough pollinators, the cost of produce would soar, and not just for things like berries and melons, but also for products like honey, which relies on bees for production. It would be a financial burden on consumers and farmers alike. The loss of bees could also cause a disruption in the availability of certain crops altogether. For example, almond trees depend heavily on bee pollination. Without bees, the entire almond industry could collapse, leading to a loss of an essential nut that is used in everything from snacks to almond milk. But the problem wouldn't stop there. As crops like fruits and vegetables become scarcer, so too would the animals that depend on them. Bees play an indirect role in feeding many species. For example, deer, rabbits, and birds rely on the plants that bees pollinate for food. As these plants begin to disappear, herbivores would have a harder time finding food, which would eventually affect carnivores who depend on them for survival. The collapse of one part of the food chain would send shockwaves throughout the entire system. With the loss of bees, the effects on ecosystems would be severe. Healthy ecosystems are built on the delicate balance of plants, animals, and their environment. Bees are a key part of that balance. They not only pollinate food crops, but also many wildflowers that are essential for maintaining biodiversity. Without bees to pollinate these plants, we could see a decline in the number of plant species, which in turn could lead to the loss of animal species that rely on those plants. Another major consequence would be the impact on soil health. Bees play a role in the nutrient cycle, helping to fertilize plants and promote healthy soil. Without bees, plants would struggle to grow and the soil would lose its richness. Crops would be less likely to thrive, and without healthy crops, the soil would deteriorate over time, leading to a decrease in agricultural productivity. The loss of bees would have far-reaching consequences that go beyond just the food we eat, affecting the very foundations of our ecosystems. In addition to the environmental and economic impacts, the loss of bees would have cultural and societal consequences. Bees have been important to humanity for thousands of years. They've been symbols of hard work, cooperation, and nature's delicate balance. Many cultures have depended on bees for honey, which is not only a food source, but also has medicinal uses. Without bees, the cultural and traditional practices surrounding beekeeping would vanish and the loss of honey would be felt globally. The potential loss of bees is not just an environmental concern, it's a threat to our way of life. The disruption of ecosystems, the collapse of agricultural industries, and the rising cost of food would put pressure on societies everywhere. It's a sobering thought, but it's a reality we may soon have to face unless we act now. In the next part, we'll take a closer look at the possible solutions to this crisis and what we can do to help prevent the disappearance of bees. While the challenges are significant, there is still hope, and by making a few changes in our approach to the environment, we might be able to save these vital creatures before it's too late. The good news is that while the disappearance of bees would have devastating effects, there are many ways we can help prevent this from happening. One of the most important actions we can take is to address the factors that are directly contributing to the decline in bee populations. By tackling issues like habitat loss, pesticide use, and climate change, we can create a safer environment for bees to thrive. Habitat loss is one of the leading causes of bee decline. As cities and agricultural land expand, natural habitats like meadows, forests, and wildflower fields are being destroyed or altered. Bees need these habitats to find food, water, and shelter. And without them, their chances of survival are slim. To help, we can work to protect and restore these habitats. Planting wildflowers, native plants, and creating bee-friendly gardens are all great ways to support bee populations. These efforts can be made on a large scale, like through community or government-led restoration projects, or on a smaller scale, such as in private gardens. Even planting a few bee-friendly plants in your own backyard can make a difference. Another way to help is by reducing the use of harmful pesticides. Pesticides are toxic to bees, either directly by poisoning them or indirectly by contaminating their food sources. Many of the chemicals used on crops can have long-lasting effects, not only killing bees, but also affecting their ability to navigate, communicate, and reproduce. To minimize the impact of pesticides, farmers and gardeners can adopt more eco-friendly methods, such as using organic pesticides or encouraging natural predators like ladybugs and birds to control pests. Reducing pesticide use is crucial, and with the development of more sustainable farming practices, it's possible to reduce the harm to bees while still managing pests effectively. Climate change is also playing a major role in the decline of bees. As temperatures rise and weather patterns become more erratic, bees are struggling to adapt. Some plants are blooming earlier or later than usual, making it harder for bees to find food when they need it. Extreme weather events such as floods or droughts can also disrupt bee populations. In order to address the effects of climate change, we need to take action on a global scale. Reducing carbon emissions, protecting natural ecosystems, and promoting renewable energy sources are all vital steps in slowing down the effects of climate change and giving bees a fighting chance. One of the most effective ways to support bee populations, however, is through education and advocacy. Many people simply don't realize how crucial bees are to our everyday lives. By raising awareness about the importance of bees and the challenges they face, we can encourage more people to take action. Governments, organizations, and individuals all have a role to play in protecting bees. Some countries have already passed laws to protect pollinators, and more should follow suit by supporting policies that protect bees, such as banning harmful pesticides or incentivizing the planting of bee-friendly plants. We can help create a world where bees are safe and thriving. On a smaller scale, there are everyday actions we can take to help bees. For example, reducing our use of plastic can help protect the natural habitats that bees rely on. By supporting sustainable and eco-friendly products, we can reduce our impact on the environment and create a healthier planet for bees to live in. Every small step counts, and when enough people come together to make changes, the impact can be significant. In addition to these efforts, beekeeping has also seen a resurgence in recent years, and many people are getting involved in keeping their own hives. Beekeeping can be a great way to directly support bee populations while also harvesting honey and beeswax. It's a way to connect with nature, learn about the important work bees do, and contribute to the survival of these vital creatures. Beekeepers help maintain healthy bee colonies, which in turn support the pollination of crops and wildflowers. It's a small but meaningful way to make a difference. All of these efforts combined can help create a safer environment for bees and prevent the collapse of ecosystems that rely on them. While it may seem like an overwhelming problem, the truth is that we can all make a difference. By being conscious of the actions we take, advocating for change, and supporting bee-friendly practices, we can help ensure that bees continue to thrive for generations to come. In the final part, we'll explore the importance of global cooperation in tackling the challenges bees face and how we can all work together to secure a future where bees are no longer at risk. The future of our planet and our food supply depends on it. The future of bees, and by extension, the future of our planet, is in our hands. While it may seem like the challenges they face are insurmountable, there is still hope. The decline of bee populations is a global issue, but it is one that can be addressed with collective effort. It's not just about protecting bees, it's about protecting the entire web of life that depends on them. One of the most crucial steps in ensuring the survival of bees is fostering international collaboration. Bee populations don't recognize borders, and the effects of their decline are felt worldwide. For this reason, countries need to come together to share knowledge, resources, and strategies for saving bees. The European Union, for example, has already implemented policies to protect pollinators, such as banning certain pesticides and encouraging sustainable farming practices. Other countries can follow suit by enacting similar measures and ensuring that bee protection is a priority. Governments have a key role to play in shaping the future of bee conservation. But it's not just about laws and regulations, it's also about funding research and supporting innovative solutions. For example, scientists are currently studying the genetics of bees to better understand how they adapt to environmental stressors. With this knowledge, we can develop more resilient bee populations and ensure that they can survive in the face of climate change and other threats. Investing in research is crucial for developing new ways to protect bees and understanding how we can create a healthier environment for them. In addition to government action, businesses and industries must also take responsibility. Agriculture, in particular, is a major contributor to bee decline, and it's essential for the industry to adopt more sustainable practices. By promoting organic farming, reducing pesticide use, and supporting pollinator-friendly initiatives, companies can help protect bees while still meeting the demand for food. This shift towards sustainability is not only good for bees, it's good for the economy and for the planet. Consumers also have the power to influence change by choosing products that support sustainable practices and by advocating for better policies. The role of individual action cannot be underestimated. Each of us can contribute to the well-being of bees by making small, everyday changes, whether it's planting a bee-friendly garden, reducing our carbon footprint, or supporting eco-friendly businesses. Every little action helps. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem, but the truth is that collective action can make a significant difference. When enough people come together with a shared vision for a bee-friendly world, change becomes possible. Education and awareness play a huge part in bee conservation. Many people don't fully understand the importance of bees or how their decline could affect us all. Through education, we can inspire people to take action and support initiatives that protect bees. Schools, community groups, and environmental organizations all have a role to play in spreading the message about the importance of pollinators. The more people know about the vital role bees play in our ecosystems, the more likely they are to act in their defense. There are also exciting opportunities on the horizon, like the development of new technologies to protect bees. For instance, researchers are working on creating bee-friendly pesticides that are less harmful to pollinators. There are even efforts to create artificial pollinators, like drones, that could step in when bee populations are struggling. While these solutions are still in the early stages, they represent the kind of innovation we'll need to keep bees safe in the future. In the end, the survival of bees depends on all of us. Governments, businesses, scientists, and individuals all have a part to play in securing a future where bees continue to thrive. It may seem like an impossible task, but when we work together, we can protect these incredible creatures and ensure that our planet remains healthy and resilient. The question of whether humanity could survive without bees is a dire one, but it's a question we don't have to answer. With concerted effort and determination, we can protect the bees that are so vital to our survival. If we act now, we can ensure that future generations will continue to enjoy the many benefits that bees bring to our world. Thanks for sticking with me through this journey. Let's make sure we're doing everything we can to protect our planet's unsung heroes, the bees. If we want to ensure a future where bees continue to thrive, we need long-term solutions that go beyond immediate conservation efforts. While planting flowers, reducing pesticide use, and supporting sustainable agriculture are important, the fight to save bees must also focus on building a world where their survival is no longer in question. One of the biggest factors in long-term bee survival is restoring and protecting natural habitats. Over the past century, massive amounts of land have been cleared for urban development, large-scale farming, and industrial expansion. This destruction has left bees with fewer places to find food, shelter, and nesting sites. To reverse this, governments and environmental groups are working to restore meadows, grasslands, and forests that serve as natural homes for pollinators. Programs that turn abandoned lots into pollinator-friendly green spaces, create protected wildflower corridors, and plant native vegetation along highways and city parks all contribute to creating a more sustainable world for bees. Beyond land restoration, changing the way we farm is essential. Modern industrial agriculture is designed for efficiency and large yields, but it often comes at the expense of biodiversity. Many farms today grow massive fields of a single crop, known as monocultures, which provide little to no food for bees outside of short blooming periods. Shifting to diverse crop rotations, intercropping, growing multiple plant species together, and integrating wildflowers into farmlands can create environments where bees have access to food year-round. Some farmers have already adopted bee-friendly practices, but widespread adoption will require incentives, education, and policy changes. The role of technology in bee conservation is another fascinating aspect of this issue. Scientists are exploring ways to support bee populations through artificial intelligence and robotics. Some researchers are developing robotic pollinators, tiny flying drones designed to mimic the behavior of bees by transferring pollen between plants. While this might sound like something out of science fiction, these innovations could play a role in pollination if bee populations continue to decline. However, replacing bees entirely with technology is not a realistic or desirable solution. Instead, these developments should be seen as temporary backups rather than replacements for natural pollinators. Another promising advancement is bee breeding programs aimed at increasing resilience in honeybee populations. By selectively breeding bees that are more resistant to disease, better adapted to climate change, or able to withstand environmental stressors, researchers hope to create stronger colonies that can survive in an increasingly unpredictable world. Beekeepers are also experimenting with hive designs that better protect bees from temperature fluctuations, pests, and chemical exposure. Public involvement will continue to be a major factor in the success of bee conservation efforts. Over the past few decades, awareness of the importance of bees has grown significantly. More people are learning about their role in ecosystems, advocating for policy changes, and supporting conservation initiatives. Grassroots efforts like community gardens that prioritize pollinator-friendly plants or citizen science projects where people help track bee populations are becoming more common. Schools are even incorporating bee education into their curriculums, ensuring that future generations understand the value of these tiny but mighty creatures. Ultimately, the question of whether humanity could survive without bees is not just about food or agriculture, it's about the health of the entire planet. Bees are a vital link in the chain of life, supporting ecosystems that sustain countless species, including humans. While there are ways to mitigate their loss, none of them come close to providing the same natural, efficient, and interconnected benefits that bees offer. The good news is that the situation is not hopeless. Unlike some environmental crises that feel too big to tackle, bee conservation is an issue where real change is possible. With the right mix of science, policy, and public action, we can ensure that bees continue to thrive for generations to come. Thanks for watching and being part of this important conversation. If you want to learn more about the natural world and how we can protect it, be sure to check out my next video. Let's keep working toward a future where bees and all of nature can flourish.